Well, with Christmas right around the corner, only being a few days away, if you guys are still struggling to find that perfect gift for that perfect person, today's build might just be that perfect gift. Now, the best part about this project is it only requires about 10 foot of material. For me, I went out and bought this nice 12-foot board, but feel free to use a couple 8-foot boards. You could even use some scrap laying around the shop if you got enough material. So today we are going to be building this fancy little mountain shelf. Now for me, I'm going to be hanging this in my bathroom above my toilet where my wife wants it. She's going to put her little knickknacks, all her little candles and everything on there, so that's where this is going to go. But you could easily use this as like a centerpiece for a table, again, going on a wall as a shelf. Let your imagination run wild and do whatever you like with it. Now this mountain shelving project is a pretty simple and easy beginner-friendly project. All the cuts that we are going to be making over at the miter saw are going to be all 30-degree cuts, so you don't have to move it around a whole bunch of times. You just set it to 30 degrees and you make your cuts. So to get started, we're going to load our board up over on our miter saw, and we're going to rotate our miter saw to that 30-degree mark. Again, all you're going to need is 30 degrees for this. Easy enough. So with our saw rotated to 30 degrees and our board up in the vertical position, all we're going to do for the first cut is take the end off our board to give us a 30-degree cut. Now obviously this is just a piece of scrap wood just for, for me to show you, but all we're going to do is take that first end of the board and put that 30-degree cut on that side, and then we'll start measuring out our boards. All right, so with that first 30-degree cut on our board, what we're going to do is we're going to measure off the long side of that cut 36 inches. Again, here's a screenshot. I'll circle it so you guys know which parts I'm cutting. And this is a pretty repetitive, easy cut process. All you're doing is just making the cut with one board, measuring it, making another cut, measuring it, and rinsing and repeat, and so on and so forth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure off this long side 36 inches, and that's going to give us this bottom board. So I'm going to pull off that long side of the board, and I'm going to measure out to that 36-inch mark. Now with our first mark, I'm going to do this for every single mark that I make on the board. I'm going to rotate the board, and I'm going to put that line on both sides of the board. That way when I go to stand this vertical again, I know where my cut should be. So with my board marked out to 36 inches, I'm going to rotate my board up so that way when I make this second cut, it's perpendicular to the one that I just did. I don't want them going parallel with each other. I want them to be perpendicular, going like towards each other. All right, so with that second cut done, I've got myself a 36-inch base for this mountain shelving. Now, again, this is a pretty straightforward process. I'll put a link to the plans down in the description below because, again, all of my plans on this channel are always going to be free because I feel like people deserve to have nice things without having to pay for them. So go down there, get yourself these plans, and build this thing out yourself in your own shop. And I'm just gonna speed run through the rest of these cuts because they're all practically the same. It's just a matter of whether or not the ends are perpendicular or parallel with each other. Just make sure you pay attention to that, because if you don't, then you're not gonna have enough material, then you have to go to the store, and then at that point, it's a bad day. So for the next board, I'm going to be measuring out the 16 inches and we'll get this piece cut. And there's our 16-inch piece. And my next cut's going to be 14 3/8. And there is our 14 3/8. Now I'm going to measure out 8 more inches. And for our next cut, we're going to do 8 1/4, but these cuts are going to be parallel with each other. All right, with our 8 1/4 piece done, we'll go ahead and keep on cutting out the rest. And now we'll need another piece cut to 6 3/8 with parallel sides. All right, so our next piece is going to be 15 7/16. All right, and with our 15 7/16 piece cut, we only got a couple more pieces to go, and then we can start putting this thing together. So with our last 2 pieces left to cut, I'm going to cut out a 7 7/8 inch piece, and both of these sides are going to be perpendicular with each other. Now with our last cut left on the miter saw, we're going to measure out 10 3/8 off that long side, and these 2 cuts are going to be parallel with each other. Now with our last piece all cut up and ready to go, we're gonna head over here to the fancy workbench and get this thing put together. Now with this 12-foot board that I have about 1.5 feet of scrap left over. So I'm just gonna add this over here to the scrap pile and we'll use it in another day. All right, so back over at our fancy workbench with all of our pieces all laid out and ready to go. I think what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna hit it a little bit with a sander. Now, I did buy a more premium wood from my local big box store, so it's actually relatively smooth. It has a really nice finish to it, so I don't have to go crazy with it. I'm really just gonna be aiming for the sides that I cut. Now, I am using a 1x4. I'm not quite sure if I mentioned it yet or not, but feel free to use whatever you guys would like. And again, this is a relatively big shelf, so feel free to adjust the plans as you would or as you see fit for whatever space or wherever you decide to put this thing. I'm gonna be using a little bit of 220 grit sandpaper, again, to get these edges all smoothed out and those sharp points gone. All right, so with our parts all sanded down and ready to go, I think I'm gonna go ahead and put this thing together first before I give it any kind of stain. I was reading online that apparently if you stain before you glue, it messes with the way that the glue works and sticks with the wood, I guess. I don't know. If you guys have any information on that, let me know down in the comment section below because I would love to learn and know more about that process. But yeah, so what I did is I actually pieced together each of the mountains. So obviously like these two pieces are gonna make up a mountain and so on and so forth. That'll help make it easier in keeping this, you know, together and going together as smooth as possible. Also, my wife did get me an early Christmas present and she got me a new cordless brad nailer, and this thing is freaking awesome and I can't wait to use it on our project. So to get started, the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put together the big mountain. It is on the far right side of the page. I'll circle it right here, and I'm gonna glue these two together, nail them, and then we'll get it attached to our big board. All right, so of my two longer pieces, the 16-inch is going to be on the outside. So I'm gonna add a little bit of glue to the top part of my 14 3/8" board, put them together, drive a brad nail, and we'll get it attached to our long piece. All right, so similar to my snowflake project when we were doing all of those different angles, obviously these pieces are not going to be 100% secure until we get it attached to our big board. So just don't go ripping it apart and try to throw it around right now. So next we're gonna attach this piece that we just put together to our long board. Now again, that 16-inch piece is gonna go here on the outside, and then we'll secure it through that way, and then we'll drive some brad nails through the bottom to attach the shorter piece. And just like that, we got ourselves our first mountain put together on the base of our shelf. Now, when putting the rest of this together, it's going to be easier to work from the outside in because as we place those inner mountains, they kind of rest on the sides of the bigger mountains. And so we don't want to place those in there and then kind of have to stretch our board as we go. So it's just easier to work from the outside going in. So the next one I'm going to do is a small mountain on the other side of our base. You know, I'll put a little picture here and circle it, and then I'll work inward. And when I go to do the inner mountains, I'm gonna put them together and then I'll attach them to our base of mountains. So just like the big mountain, I'm gonna put this small one together and then we'll get attached to our base. So on this side of the mountain, the 8-inch board is going to be going underneath the 7 7/8" board. All right, so with our two mountains on both ends of the board all put together and attached to the base, I'm gonna go ahead and build the second bigger mountain and then get it attached to the smaller side of our board. All right, and just like that, we got ourselves a couple mountains attached to the base of our board. Now we just gotta attach the last little mountain that goes right here in the middle, and it'll be off to staining. So with these last two pieces, remember the 6 3/8" piece goes below the 8 1/4" piece, just like that. We'll shoot a brad nail, get it attached to our mountain. All right, and just like that, we got ourselves a nice little mountain shelving thing that you can place wherever you'd like in your house. Me personally, I'm gonna actually hang this in our bathroom above our toilet. My wife would like to put little candles on there and make this thing look real nice and festive. But first, before I go ahead and show this to her and give it to her, I'm actually gonna hit it with some dark stain. She really likes that dark walnut stain that I've applied to many projects here on the channel. So we're gonna hit it with that, kind of clean it up a little bit and get this thing going inside and hanging up on the wall. And just like that, we got ourselves a nice mountain shelf. Now this thing will be going on the wall in my bathroom above my toilet where my wife would like to hang it and put her little knickknacks all across the thing. But feel free to do whatever you guys would like with this thing. Make it your own. Put a little bit of white caps on the top to make it look like there's snow. A little bit of glue actually kind of gave this a nice little texture. There's some glue as I was staining that I went over, and it kind of adds just a little bit of texture to the wood. And I actually think that turned out quite nice. Now, I've seen these things going online for hundreds of dollars, and it is crazy to me that somebody is paying that kind of price for something like this that is so simple to build. Now, I think if you're gonna get that kind of price, you're gonna be having to use some probably like exotic wood or something to actually justify that price. But for something like this, I bet you could easily get $50+ for a nice little shelf like this. But again, as always, the plans for this mountain shelf are in the description below. Feel free to download them, kind of modify them, do whatever you would like with them, but they are listed below for free because again, at the end of the day, I feel like everybody deserves to have nice things without having to pay for them. So that's gonna wrap up this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this build. If you did, you know what to do. Hit that like, share, notification bell, all that good stuff. It really does help support the channel. And you know, again, I am a new woodworker. I don't have all the big fancy tools. I don't have some big fancy shop. I just have what I have available here in my garage and just a few other tools. So until next time, I hope you guys have a great one. Happy building and God bless.